What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today is a very, very special day for EA Sports PGA Tour. It marks the first official major update that the game has seen. Now, they sent out a couple messages earlier last week, and they said, we've heard the community, we have a number of things that we're working on, and we're going to implement them over the course of the next couple patches. What I didn't expect was the timeline of which they were going to act on these things. So we actually saw a major patch be dropped this morning, and I got to tell you, it highlights a number of things that were really bothering me, that were really bothering the community, and it's really good to see that for an EA game, they're actually turning over these patches relatively quick, and if they continue to do this, I think that means only really good things for the game. So we're going to go through the list of some of the changes and kind of talk about what they mean for the game and how they might impact your gameplay. But I think they're actually really, really good, and I've tested a few of them already this morning. So without further ado, let's just dive into the patch notes. So the first thing, probably the biggest, most requested feature that many fans of the old Tiger Woods games or the Rory McIlroy games was the introduction of three-click swing. Now, when the game first dropped, they said right away that there wasn't going to be three-click swing and that it was something that they heard from the community and they were going to implement over, the next couple patches, whatever that meant. I fully did not anticipate that they were going to add it into the patch, the first major patch that the game saw. So, it's actually insane that we're seeing it. Again, at the time of this recording, it's the 20th of April, and we've already seen this being implemented in the game. And I tried it a little bit, and it seems to work the same way it worked in the old game. So if you were a big fan of three-click swing, obviously over the years playing PGA 2K, I kind of adapted away from that. Now it is a really fun feature that the game had back in the day, and a lot of people play that. So if you're a fan of three-click swing, it is now in the game. It seems to run very well. So get back into these games, because I'm telling you, with all these patches coming out, it's going to keep getting better and better. And this was a really highly requested feature that is now in the game. The next thing is obviously some tweaks to career mode. So the first thing it says here is with the ability to change tournaments just one round instead of four full rounds, So one big thing that fans were talking about was just the speed of the game in general. Obviously, the tempo is very slow, but a thing that was bothering fans a lot was the fact that, you would make a shot and then you'd have to sit there while your character does this little celebration animation or a disappointment animation. You'd have to hear the broadcast talk about it, things like that. And personally, I'm a big fan of that. I love the presentation. I think the game, that's something that EA PGA games have always kind of excelled at, was the broadcast, the presentation of these things. So personally, I'm not going to turn that off, but they have added in quick rounds. So they have the fast rounds where, you can zoom into 2 or 3 holes that the game selects for you, play those holes in your career mode. But they've also now added the way to customize specific tournaments to just be 1 round instead of, making your entire season 4 rounds for every single tournament. And they've also had the ability in the settings to turn off animations or post-shot celebrations, whatever you want to call them. It is a good idea, because a lot of fans were saying that they just want to play quickly and get through the holes, and I can understand that. Again, it's not something I'm a fan of, but if you like that, it's now in the game with an option. So great changes to both career mode and just the speed of the game. Now, you've probably heard me talk about this in all of my career mode games, potentially even all of the videos that I've made for this game, was the putting and the putting grid. There have been a number of bugs reported, a number of bugs we've encountered that have kind of just taken away from the overall feel of the game and the experience that were actually really annoying, to say the least. The biggest one was the fact that the putting grid, the beads on the grid, were inaccurate some of the times. So you might find yourself putting a really good shot into the green, finding yourself, 10 feet away, and the putting grid is telling you that, the beads on the putting grid are telling you it's a left to right putt. You aim up for a left to right putt, and then all of a sudden you're noticing that your putt's going the opposite way. So there was a bug in the game where the beads could be wrong. They've seemingly addressed that. Again, I've played a couple rounds since recording this, and it seems to be fixed for the most part. I haven't really encountered a situation where it looks like a left to right and it doesn't go left to right, which is a massive, massive change. Again, something I wasn't quite anticipating in the first patch, but it's really good to see that. Now, another thing that they've talked about in this blurb here was the fact that the putting cup itself was the wrong size. So they reported that when they were making the game, they had all the physics for, lip outs and all that sort of stuff when it comes to the putt hole and the putt dynamics. It turns out when they launched the game, the putt hole was actually the wrong size. So the cup itself was the wrong size, which left the impression that your ball was rolling over the lip and never lipping in or never lipping out or doing like a toilet bowl around the cup. It seemed like sometimes your coin, if you're playing with an AI or playing with a team, your coin was actually floating over the cup. But it turns out the cup appeared to be the wrong size when the physics were a lot smaller. So they've gone ahead and adjusted the cup size. That is actually huge. Now there is more lip outs. I can tell you in my experience of the first 2 rounds I played since this patch, there are lip outs. It's something I have never seen in this game up until this point, which, you know, sometimes you'll get mad about a lip out or you'll be like, how does that putt not go in? But that is the realism of golf. You experience lip outs in real golf all the time. It's something that's extremely important for the dynamic of the game and really important to add. So they fixed 2 major glaring issues that I found on the putting surface that are going to help immensely with pretty much every aspect of the game. Staying on putting for a moment, one of the big things they've added is the ability to turn off the swing meter. So some people want that full immersion. I personally am still not the greatest on the putting grids. I still find this game very challenging. It's far different than 2K. That's the best way to describe it. It is a very different putting experience than 2K. Some people like it, some people don't. That's fine. But they now have the ability, if you feel like you've wanted that extra challenge, you can now turn off the swing meter and totally go off feel. And let me tell you, I did try it in a round. It does add that true simulation feel where you have to feel out. You have to actually look at the grid. You have to really understand what the putt's doing. If it's downhill, you are now playing off feel. So it is a true simulation feel. It is a new level of challenge. It is exciting. I'm not going to do it full time just yet because I'm not ready for that. But if you feel like you've mastered putting, it is a really good change. Second in this big blurb, again, I'm not going to read this word for word. You can go on all sorts of sites like Dexerto, which we're on right now, or all sorts to read the patch notes. But physics to camera changes. One thing that I always found weird was if your ball is right near the edge of water, if your ball is up against something like grandstands or in kind of a non-playable area, the camera angle was never behind you. So you could never see your shot going forward. It was always a top-down view. I could understand why it was like that, because if you're against a grandstand, how is there a camera there? But it made for the shot to be almost impossible because you're seeing your shot swing from top down. You can't really gauge the distance. You can't really aim or see what you're shooting at. So it's completely blind shot. So they have gone in and they've added the ability to see those camera angles from what you would expect. Might not be the most realistic if you're against a grandstand or something like that, but it does help with the gameplay. And that's especially online play. You don't want a disadvantage because the camera angle just can't get to that certain location. So they've gone in and added that. I think that's extremely important. I think that's something that they really needed to do. And I think it just makes for a better experience, at least for the game. Now, one thing we'll talk about quickly that the patch notes doesn't really highlight that I've noticed in other videos, as well as just playing, is the size of golf clubs has changed, which is good. I think you saw certain clubs be unrealistically large or small. There was a lot of hybrids that, while a hybrid club is a pretty small club head, it was abnormally small, which was weird. So they seem to have fixed that. They've also gone in and cleaned up driver head sizes. So the Callaway, for example, the Callaway Paradigm, which is a beautiful driver, it seemed to appear really large. They've shrunk that down. It matches like the Stealth. It matches like all the Cobras. So they've kind of gone through and kind of make adjustments to all the different clubs to kind of just, you know, narrow them in and make them a little bit more realistic for that whatever club type it is. So hopefully that's cleaned up all the issues you've guys had. I saw some putters were a little bit small as well. So nice little, you know, not really game breaking, but definitely adds a nice little touch to the gameplay. For right here, you can see online multiplayer and quicker rounds. So just general improvements to the game are coming. They didn't put everything in this patch. That's one thing that is a big touching point was there's just not a lot of game selection for online. The online experience is not overly interesting right now, but they have added the ability for that quicker round, as we talked about before. That does apply into online games, so that is a nice little change. You can kind of just go through and just, you know, play around without having to watch all your animations or watching other players. Right now, it's just simultaneous shot, but you know, you're waiting for your character to react, and then you gotta. But they've announced more changes are coming. So while this patch doesn't really have it, it is something that is coming. But all in all, I think this is a really good patch, a really good stepping stone for the game. One last thing I just wanted to highlight was there is UI change. So one big thing was the UI is very cluttered, especially on the right or left side, depending on your golfer's handleness. But there is some general UI, guys. Make sure you check it out in the settings. Make sure you can now fine-tune some things to your liking. There is a lot of good changes in this. But for me, the fact that we got some of these things like the putting physics and the camera changes, 3-click swing, that's basically a whole new game style added into the game in the first major patch. I'm going to throw this out there. You guys might experience some bugs. I've been fortunate enough that in my first round with 3-click, it felt smooth. It felt great. There's a lot of good changes into this patch. I think this is a really positive step forward. A big thing about the community was they're concerned that it's an EA game and that there's not going to be, communication with the dev team or patches or further improvement post-launch. And if anything, to me, this just shows that the team that's dedicated to this franchise really does care and they want to improve the game. I talked about this a little bit in my review. You can go watch. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I am confident in the team. It is EA. I know the struggles there. I understand that they do not have the best reputation, but I am confident reading the dev blogs, reading the patch notes, reading everything that the golf team that is in charge of this game is going to continue delivering patches like this. And if they keep doing them at the steady pace they're doing, and if they keep doing them with the amount of content that's being dropped in it, I think you're going to see a really successful game. And I think give it more time, people will start turning around on this game. Because again, it's really easy to say 2K23 is the superior game because it's more polished. They've had time to iterate on it. There's tons of courses. There's the course creation. There's the beautiful online game experience. It is a more polished game. I think it's only fair that we give this time to develop, and with future updates where they're adding more courses, which they've already said they are, they add more professional players, they add more online game experience, they just cleaned up the general bugs. I think it can offer a really good experience. And to me, these patch notes are just the first step and something that surprised me. I really didn't expect to see some of these things early. But that is going to be all for me, guys. I really do appreciate the love and support. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this patch helps you in some way and kind of improves your experience. But for me, I'm really happy with a lot of these changes, and I can't wait to see what the game implements over the coming weeks. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your day.